Hello, class. We're on to section 3 here of chapter 19. And for today's mini lecture, we're going to be talking about the changing pattern of life and how modern technology and other changes have made our lives the way they are today. And so let's take a look at this together and see what we'll be discussing for this section. We're going to be looking at how the old way of doing things are now changed and what has happened to a traditional biblical view of life, and what are some of the changes that are maybe biblical or not biblical for our discussion. And also, as Christians, are there any limits to the use of technology and science, and how do the benefits also help those of God's people? So we're going to be looking at some of these issues together throughout finishing up this first unit. Since post-World War II, of course, one of the big issues that we're addressing is urbanization, the people flocking to the cities to escape the rural area where there's not very many services, education is limited, healthcare is limited, and today, of course, things as the internet and other things are much more available in the city, as well as jobs, rather than just depending upon the land. So this, of course, changed the lifestyle of many people, especially the culture and the family life of individuals, not only in the industrialized, developed countries, but even in underdeveloped areas. So we see, because of the adoption of the Western way of life, we see the Americanization, you could almost call it, of many countries today that have adopted our technology, our media, television shows, fashion, music, all this kind of thing, and has transformed much of the world. If you travel, you'll notice that a lot of these kind of things have changed different cultures, and you almost get a ubiquitous American culture due to television and movies. So what I'd like you to give some thought to is how has this changed a traditional life in many countries. Also, the role of women has changed a lot since the 1940s and 50s. The right to vote in many countries, of course in America in 1920s, the women were already voting by then, but also now the election of women into Congress, and maybe someday even as president. Also, there's been a lot of progress in the role of women within the workforce and also the church. So those are some things that we want to bring the Bible to bear on what role the women play and how we view that. The feminist movement, which is radically against the Bible, is, although caused some good changes, some things that we are more aware of today as far as women's rights, but also the radical feminist movement has taken things too far and demanding things that the Bible are against, such as governing in the church, and also denying that people in general, that there's a difference between men and women at all. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So what are some of the benefits of science and technology? Obviously the computer, even if you're an auto mechanic or whatever kind of job you have, you're going to depend on a computer. So this has definitely changed our workforce. In almost every job, there's going to be a computer either at the counter or at the front desk or on your desk or in your truck or car or smartphone. And so contractors, just about anybody's going to depend upon the new mobile technologies. The medical field, of course, depends on new technologies as well. So we see many, many benefits in our work, in our social life, connecting with friends. Is much more convenient and easy now than it was in the 1940s. But of course, all of this comes with some drawbacks. It doesn't really, the technology hasn't solved all of the problems that mankind, from a humanist standpoint, would like it to. Uh, Remember what we talked about last time. As a humanist background, man is in an unregenerate state, is looking for mankind to solve all the problems. And one of the main things they look to is science and technology, of course. Other problems is the jobs. People complain that robotics or computers have replaced a lot of jobs for people, so that's another possible drawback to it. One of the other things that has really spawned a lot of technology is our space exploration program and our military. So almost every major invention, from the internet to GPS systems to mobile technology, has all been developed for the space program or for the military, and then trickles down to the consumer later. So that you can see, once the space race developed between us and the Soviet Union, the first into space was Yuri Gagarin, a Soviet. Of course, the first ever satellite, the Sputnik, you've, I'm sure, heard about. And then the Americans were able to land with Armstrong and Aldrin in the Apollo 11 program. Because of these, we have many advances: better, stronger, lighter weight equipment, and a lot of the products that we have today. Satellites, the launching of satellites is a very important part of all of our lives, from television to internet coverage to tracking and weather forecasting, tracking troop movements for geographical purposes. There's just a whole plethora of reasons why there's so many satellites up above us, and for useful things such as this. The Space Shuttle program, just a little bit about that, which was very popular in the 1980s until the Challenger exploded in 1986, which caused a great setback in that program, and it has since then restarted and then been tabled again. But the shuttle program really advanced our space, and the launching of the Hubble telescope to get us to learn more and more about God's creation and its far-off reaches. What is the future? Mars, possibly. Space colonization. It all depends on what the current president, George W. Bush, wanted to pursue it. The current president, Barack Obama, is not as keen on pursuing it, and so it depends on how the administration pushes the space exploration program. Computers, we've mentioned already how they've changed over time, the superconductors, and now we deal with such topics as molecular electronics, nanotechnology, and even artificial intelligence, as we're on the verge of having robots that can almost mimic human thought process. So these are some things that are controversial that we'll be talking about in class, particularly with medical advances. We're going to be looking at some of these firsts now. Of course, Cody DeBoer, some of you might know, just had a lung transplant. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful for these advances. But then where is the line? Do we want to genetic engineer our children so that they can't have cystic fibrosis, for example? If that possibility was in front of us, these are some things we need to sort out together as a Christian community. So limb transplants, laser surgeries, fiber optics, all these things are good and useful. And now we see the Ebola virus breaking out in Africa again just recently, and that concerns us as people and as Christians. What is our role in trying to also stop that? So these are the questions I pose. We can discuss in class. Where is the line, if there's a line, in all of these bioethical questions? So what we're going to do now then is finish this up, and we'll finish the discussion on those topics that were raised by this short lecture. Thank you.